Let's talk facts. The Avengers are not coming.
Welcome, you action movie aficionados, to Film Frenzy TV, our definitive guide to the top 10 action-packed movies hitting screens in 2025. Think of this as your intel drop on the must-see thrills heading your way.
And what's immediately striking about this lineup is the sheer range of what constitutes action these days. I mean, we're seeing not just the expected superhero clashes, but also these, deeply tense thrillers and even expansions of established action narratives. It's a really interesting reflection of how filmmakers are pushing the boundaries.
Exactly. We know you're busy, and keeping up with everything can feel like, well, Mission Impossible in itself. That's where we come in. Consider this your streamlined briefing on the essential action flicks of 2025, delivering those aha moments without the, information overload. We're counting down from 10 to build the anticipation, so let's dive right into our number 10, slated for release on May 2nd, 2025, Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts. This one presents us with a really fascinating inversion of the typical superhero team dynamic. Instead of assembling paragons of virtue, we have, a collection of individuals with rather checkered pasts. Yelena Belova, Bucky Barnes, Red Guardian.
Yeah.
All under the enigmatic leadership of Valentina de Fontaine. What are your initial thoughts on this kind of unconventional approach?
Oh, I think it's brilliant. The moral complexities, inherent in a team like this are just ripe for compelling storytelling. These aren't your black and white heroes. They're shades of gray navigating these high-stakes covert missions. The potential for internal conflict in those delicious ethical quandaries is huge.
Yeah.
Plus, the darker tone hinted at really distinguishes it from the more established superhero narratives, and I'm eager to see that explored.
Indeed. The premise opens up opportunities to explore themes of redemption, maybe, and the blurry lines between heroism and villainy in a way that traditional superhero films often don't really touch. When you consider the individual journeys of these characters, their forced collaboration under these circumstances could lead to some very compelling character arcs.
Yeah.
What aspects stand out to you in terms of potential?
For me, it's the powerhouse talent involved. I mean, Florence Pugh and Sebastian Stan are just exceptional actors capable of bringing incredible depth to their roles. The anticipation around their performances is already, palpable.
Right.
And the promise of intense action sequences interwoven with their struggles with their pasts. That sounds like a winning combination action with genuine emotional weight. It could be a really wild ride.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to our number 9, which actually hit theaters back on March 7th, 2025, Silent Zone. This one has been described as a truly pulse-pounding thriller. What elements of this film grabbed your attention?
Well, the core concept is instantly captivating. Just imagine a mysterious signal sweeping through a city, completely cutting off all communication. Total chaos, right? And in that chaos, our protagonist, a highly skilled covert operative, is forced to rely solely on their instincts and combat prowess to survive. It's such a visceral, high-stakes scenario.
What's particularly interesting about Silent Zone, I think, is its apparent synthesis of successful suspense and action elements from other films. Reviewers are noting a blend of the eerie sensory deprivation of A Quiet Place with the brutal, close-quarters action reminiscent of John Wick. Why do you think this combination might resonate so well with audiences?
I think that blend just offers a really potent cinematic experience. The suspense builds from that unsettling silence and the unknown threat, while the bursts of intense, grounded action provide a release and keep the energy levels high. It caters to different types of thrills, keeping the audience engaged on multiple levels, the psychological and the physical.
Yeah, that makes sense. The reviews do emphasize that the gritty, well-executed action and the pervasive sense of dread surrounding the signal are major strengths. Although some of the supporting storylines were mentioned as being maybe less developed, the overall consensus points to a thrilling and immersive experience. Sounds like a great choice for those who appreciate their action, served with a healthy dose of suspense and atmosphere.
Definitely. Okay, our number 8 takes us on a completely different adventure, plunging into the realm of fantasy with In the Lost Lands, also released on March 7th, 2025. And this one, it has quite the pedigree, based on a short story by the one and only George R. R. Martin. What expectations immediately come to mind when you hear that name attached?
Well, with George R. R. Martin involved, you immediately anticipate a, richly constructed world, intricate lore, and characters who are likely to be morally ambiguous, navigating complex political or social landscapes. His storytelling often favors depth and detail, so adapting that to an action-oriented fantasy film presents a unique challenge and opportunity. How do you see his typical themes potentially manifesting in an action context?
Good question. I would expect the action to feel grounded within a believable, albeit fantastical, setting. The stakes are likely to be personal and driven by character motivations rather than just, like, simple good versus evil.
Right.
And given Martin's penchant for complex characters, even in the midst of epic battles, I wouldn't be surprised to see moments of genuine human drama. And the casting of Mila Jovovich as a powerful sorceress hired to obtain the secret of shapeshifting is also intriguing, given her action movie history, obviously.
And it's directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who certainly has a track record with visually driven genre films. The reports suggest impressive world building, striking visuals, and, as you mentioned, monstrous creatures and large-scale battles. While some reviews noted inconsistencies in pacing, the deep lore and exhilarating sword fights are being highlighted as significant draws for fans of the fantasy genre. It sounds like a film that really prioritizes creating an immersive and fantastical experience.
For sure. Okay, striding into our number 7 spot is Novocaine, which arrived on March 14th, 2025, and offers a truly distinctive twist on the action genre. What makes the premise of this film so, well, compelling and unique?
The central hook of Novocaine is undeniably its protagonist, Nathan Kane, played by Jack Quaid, who suffers from this rare genetic disorder that renders him completely immune to pain. It immediately raises fascinating questions about how the absence of this fundamental human experience would shape a character, particularly one thrust into dangerous situations. What kind of narrative possibilities does this open up for an action film?
It's such a compelling what-if scenario, isn't it? Imagine having to rely on your other senses and just sheer willpower to survive incredibly brutal encounters. The film explores how Kane uses his pain immunity as a practical advantage in his mission to rescue his kidnapped girlfriend. But I'm also curious about the psychological toll, like, how does someone process injury and risk without that internal warning system?
Exactly. The film seems to be delving into that psychological territory, exploring both the empowering and potentially isolating aspects of this condition. The action itself is described as visceral and stylish, with well-choreographed fights that emphasize Kane's unique ability to withstand punishment. Despite some reported mid-film lulls, the overall impression is of a fresh and adrenaline-fueled experience that offers something beyond typical action fare.
Sounds interesting. Okay, cruising into our number 6 is a sequel that has been on many radars, The Accountant 2, which premiered on April 25th, 2025. The original film, with its intriguing central character, clearly left a lasting impression. What makes this follow-up so anticipated, do you think?
Well, the enduring appeal of The Accountant stemmed from that fascinating duality of its protagonist, Christian Wolff, portrayed with such compelling nuance by Ben Affleck. He's this brilliant forensic accountant with high-functioning autism who also happens to be, a lethal killer. A sequel offers the chance to delve even deeper into his complex inner world and the mysteries of his past. What aspects of Wolff's character do you hope the sequel explores further?
I'm particularly interested in seeing more of his backstory, actually, and how he developed these extraordinary skills. The glimpses we got in the first film were tantalizing, and I think there's a lot of fertile ground to explore there. Also, the moral ambiguity that defined his actions in the first film was so compelling. He operates outside conventional notions of good and evil. I'm curious to see what kind of ethical dilemmas he faces this time around.
Yeah, me too. And returning director Gavin O'Connor clearly has a strong understanding of this character and the world he inhabits. The reviews suggest that The Accountant 2 maintains that same engaging blend of intricate plot twists and impactful action sequences. Affleck's performance is once again being lauded, and the narrative is said to be tightly constructed. So for those who were captivated by the original, this promises a more profound exploration of a truly unique action hero.
Excellent. Okay, reaching the midpoint of our countdown at number 5 is Ballerina, a spin-off expanding the incredibly popular John Wick universe, which premiered on June 6, 2025. The John Wick franchise has become synonymous with groundbreaking action choreography. What makes this spin-off such an exciting prospect within that established world?
Well, the John Wick films have undeniably raised the bar for action cinema with their hyper-stylized gun-fu and meticulously crafted fight sequences. It's incredible stuff. So a spin-off centered on a young female assassin trained in that same deadly discipline feels like a natural and very exciting evolution of the franchise. And the casting of Ana de Armas in the lead role brings a significant amount of talent and on-screen presence to the project. What do you see as the potential for Ballerina to carve out his own identity within the John Wick universe?
Well, I think focusing on a female protagonist immediately offers a fresh perspective. While the core action style will likely be familiar, the character's motivations and journey will hopefully bring new emotional depth to the world. De Armas is such a dynamic performer, capable of both vulnerability and incredible physicality.
Absolutely.
The reports of balletic action sequences blended with brutal combat sound visually stunning and promise a unique flavor within the Wickverse.
Yeah, the early reactions have been overwhelmingly positive, with particular praise for De Armas's compelling performance, which apparently balances a sense of vulnerability with a clear and formidable lethality. The film is said to explore themes of revenge and identity within the established mythology, suggesting it's not just relying on the franchise's popularity, but actively contributing to its narrative richness. This sounds like a must-see for existing fans and, frankly, anyone who appreciates innovative and fiercely executed action.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, this has been an absolutely thrilling dive into the top half of our most anticipated action movies of 2025. We are just getting warmed up, but hey, if you want to take a quick break and immerse yourselves even further, be sure to head over to Film Frenzy TV on YouTube. We've got trailers, behind-the-scenes peeks, and all the latest updates on these and tons of other upcoming films. Seriously, go check it out. Okay, let's reload and get back to the countdown, starting with our number 4.
All right, entering the top tier at number 4, with a release date of May 23rd, 2025, we have the highly anticipated combination of a truly iconic action saga, Mission: Impossible. The Final Reckoning. The very title suggests a significant and potentially, well, game-changing installment.
This being the 8th installment and reportedly the grand finale, the stakes couldn't be higher. The introduction of a rogue artificial intelligence, ominously named the Entity, as the central antagonist feels incredibly relevant to our current times and injects a new kind of threat into Ethan Hunt's world of espionage. How do you see this technological adversary raising the stakes for a seasoned operative like Hunt?
Well, the introduction of an AI adversary presents a unique challenge because it transcends physical limitations and operates in the digital realm. This forces Ethan Hunt and his team to confront a threat that can't be outrun or outfought in the traditional sense, demanding a different kind of strategic thinking and potentially putting them at a constant disadvantage. And of course, the return of Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, facing this seemingly insurmountable foe, is the anchor of this entire franchise. He just keeps going.
He really does. And Christopher McQuarrie is back in the director's chair, which for me is a huge vote of confidence. He's really honed his understanding of these characters and the perfect blend of intricate plotting and those absolutely breathtaking real-world stunts, many of which, as we all know, Cruise famously performs himself.
Insane.
The buzz is that this film will tie together many long-standing narrative threads, delivering a satisfying and epic conclusion to this remarkable 30-year journey. It's shaping up to be a truly memorable finale.
Definitely one to watch. Okay, accelerating into our top 3 at number 3, which actually premiered earlier this year on January 10th, 2025, is Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. The original film was praised for its raw intensity and commitment to gritty realism within the heist genre. What core elements from the first film do you anticipate seeing amplified in this sequel?
Oh yeah, the first Den of Thieves definitely delivered on that visceral, no-holds-barred crime thriller vibe, earning praise for its grounded portrayal of law enforcement and criminals and those incredibly tense action sequences. So, the premise of a sequel that plunges Gerard Butler's detective Nick O'Brien back into the criminal underworld, this time chasing a crew planning a diamond heist in LA, has all the hallmarks of another intense ride.
Yeah, and the early word is drawing comparisons to the seminal heist film Heat, particularly in terms of the meticulous planning of the heists and the promise of explosive confrontations between the criminals and law enforcement. That's a significant benchmark, suggesting a focus on both strategic intrigue and high-octane action.
And thankfully, Gerard Butler's signature rugged and intense performance is reportedly still a major highlight. They've also brought in a fresh ensemble cast, which should inject some new dynamics and potential conflicts into this complex heist scenario. While some critics noted a degree of predictability in the overall plot structure, if you're a fan of those gritty, meticulously detailed crime thrillers with plenty of hard-hitting action and those, nail-biting cat-and-mouse games, this sounds like it will definitely deliver.
That was good. Okay, surging into our number 2 spot, released on March 28th, 2025, is Day of Reckoning. This one appears to tap into some classic and enduring action movie tropes. What are your initial thoughts on a film with this kind of setup?
Well, the core premise of a seasoned, retired soldier being reluctantly drawn back into the line of fire to confront a global terrorist threat is certainly a familiar but often effective foundation for an action film. It is a setup that allows for exploration of themes like duty, redemption, and the difficulty of leaving a violent past behind. So, in a crowded field of similar plots, what do you think makes Day of Reckoning stand out?
As you mentioned, it's a well-trodden path, So the success of a film like Day of Reckoning often hinges on the execution of the action sequences and the strength of the lead performance. The reviews are highlighting particularly intense firefights, dramatic chase sequences, and a lead actor who convincingly portrays the weariness and determination of someone forced back into a life they tried to leave behind.
Exactly. They're emphasizing that the stakes feel genuinely high and the set pieces are exceptionally well crafted, which is absolutely crucial for keeping the audience invested. Even if the underlying storyline might feel somewhat familiar, the strong execution in terms of action and performance seems to be what elevates Day of Reckoning to our number 2 spot as a solid and thoroughly engaging action offering.
Makes sense. And now for our number 1 pick, the action-packed movie that we believe you absolutely must see in 2025, also released on March 28th, 2025, A Working Man. What makes this film our top choice for action thrills next year?
Jason Statham. The man is practically an institution when it comes to delivering no-nonsense, hard-hitting action. So a film that promises to showcase his signature brand of brutal efficiency. You generally know exactly what you're going to get, and that's usually a very satisfying dose of adrenaline.
Precisely. Statham has firmly established himself as the go-to actor for lean, mean action vehicles. But what adds a layer of intrigue to A Working Man is the subtle hint of a more introspective character in Novocaine. He's a former Black Ops operative attempting to embrace a quieter life, working in construction. That element of a past he's trying to escape could add some unexpected depth to his usual on-screen persona. How do you think this backstory might influence the kind of action we see in the film?
I suspect it will ground the violence in a personal motivation. When his boss's daughter is kidnapped by a dangerous criminal organization, it's not just about his old skills kicking in, it's about protecting someone he cares about in his new life, you know?
Right. Personal stakes.
Exactly. The film is described as being packed with the intense hand-to-hand combat and those signature brutal shootouts that Statham does so well. While it reportedly follows a familiar Taken-like premise, the relentless pacing and consistently satisfying action sequences are what ultimately make it our top pick for pure, unadulterated action thrills in 2025.
So there you have it, our in-depth countdown of the 10 action films that we predict will set 2025 ablaze, offering a diverse range of thrills from explosive team-ups to gritty solo missions.
Absolutely. We've journeyed through epic superhero showdowns, intense crime sagas, fantastical adventures, and everything in between. We sincerely hope this deep dive has equipped you with a fantastic roadmap for your action movie experiences throughout the coming year.
What's truly remarkable about this selection is the breadth of approaches to action filmmaking on display. Whether you're drawn to intricate spy thrillers, martial arts showcases, or relentless grounded violence, 2025 appears to have something exciting in store for every kind of action movie enthusiast. It really underscores the enduring and evolving nature of this beloved genre. And it leaves us with this final thought for you. Considering all these incredible films, which one are you most eagerly anticipating and what specifically excites you about it?
That's a fantastic question to ponder as you look ahead to a year packed with action. And don't forget, for all the trailers, behind-the-scenes insights, and even more detailed coverage on each of these films, make sure you head over to Film Frenzy TV on YouTube right now. Thank you so much for joining us on this action-packed deep dive here on Film Frenzy TV. Until our next cinematic exploration, thank you for listening to Film Frenzy TV. Subscribe, like, and share.